we're going to go ahead and get started. This is being recorded if you missed the first portion of it, but we have two guest speakers today, so I want to make sure that we're good on time. This is the training on social media and digital advertising. And what we're going to be going over today is we're going to be talking about best practices and tips and tricks to up your social media game, whether you're a beginner or advanced. I hope everybody learned something from this portion. And then we're going to be talking about digital advertising. I know that's something some organizations utilize. It's new to a lot of people, but we've got Susan Reeks from CADA here with us. They utilize digital advertising. And we also have Jackie Whaley from Town Square Media, who is a digital advertising guru. She actually does the advertising for the Community Foundation. So I'm excited to speak with them today. And then we'll have open Q&A at the end. If you have any questions as the training is going, please just drop them in the chat box and I'll try to answer them as we go. And then if you want, at the end, we'll unmute and have some discussions and things like that. Just to recap a little bit, I cover all of this in the first training, which is the Lanyap Fund and prizes. So there's more detail about the next few slides in that one, if there's anything you want to know more about. But we're having these trainings every Thursday at 1:30. They're all being recorded and you can find all of them on the resources page. There are already 2 videos up there right now and you can register for future trainings. All of the important documents, the graphics, the marketing resources, and a link to all of our emails are there as well. And there's a public resources page, and then you can also access it while you're logged in. Sorry, I couldn't find my mouse for a second. Basic rules and reminders, we're raising unrestricted dollars. So donors, when they give to you via Give4Good, they're not going to be able to set their dollars aside for a certain program or anything like that. So you're just going to receive one unrestricted check from the Community Foundation. Donors cannot receive benefits from donating to Give4Good. So no tickets, golfing fees, sponsorships, things like that. Don't send a tax receipt or an acknowledgement letter to donors. They get one immediately from the Community Foundation. So we want to make sure we're not doubling up on those. And then if you are hosting an event, we have some 2021 COVID event guidelines and that we want everybody to follow. And we also encourage everybody, we require event insurance as well if you're hosting an event. And if you have any questions about that, we have all of those guidelines posted on the resources page. And we also cover that in the events training from last week, which is recorded. What's new in 2021? Civicor was purchased by a company called Neon One. So if you get any emails from the Neon One system, don't worry, that's not spam. Those are the people who are hosting our GiveStay platform now. We have volunteer and event search pages live now on the Give4Good site that are going to be used year round. So if you post volunteer and event needs on your profile, they'll be hosted there. And we encourage donors and anybody that contacts us about volunteer opportunities to go there throughout the year. We also have a new needs tab for in-kind needs, such as if you're having a coat drive or if you're collecting canned goods. Point of sale technology is still in development, but we're excited that we are going to have that by early giving, and I'll have that information out soon. Point of sale is where we have little card swipers for you to plug into your phone, and you can easily take online donations via the swipers for Give4Good. And then as a reminder, early giving is real. So on April 20th, there will be real-time donations. They're not scheduled anymore, so donors can go online and give anytime from April 20th through May 4th. And again, I cover all of these in more details in the first training if you want to go back and watch those videos. But getting into today's topics, because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for both of our guest speakers today, let's start off with social media. And so really quickly, why do you want to utilize social media for Give4Good? The number one thing is it's easy, it's accessible, and it's free. There are paid advertising opportunities, but the basis of social media is that it is free for everybody to use. And so social media is an easy way for the people who already support you. They like your page, they're your fans, your board, your friends, your clients. It is easy content that they can share and spread the message to all of their friends and family members as well. So it's a great way to get them hyped up for the event, provide some content, provide some information that they can then share and pass on. You can share photos, videos, and stories with the people who are already supporting you. Hopefully you'll get some new followers. as well, but it's a really easy way, especially in these COVID times where we can't always interface with each other, to share what's going on at your organization, what you've been up to. You can share client success stories, share virtual tours of your facilities, photos of the people that you serve or your staff or your board. It's just a really great way to engage people and get them acquainted with your organization. If you're not necessarily sure of what to say about Give for Good, Community Foundation markets Give for Good. We have our own marketing budget for that. We will never promote one organization over another, but we just have very generic posts. So if you're ever unsure of what to say, or if you don't have any content, you can go to our page and you can share our information. We have tons of posts that will be starting at the beginning of April and going all the way up through May 4th. So you can share what we have and then link to your profile page and add your own content to that. And then also, as I said, the social media platforms, they're easy to use relative to like digital advertising and websites and things like that. Most people are familiar with how to use social media, and there are plenty of online tutorials if you want to advertise via social media. So you get a big value, because if you have a small marketing budget, you can easily put $20 to boost a post on Facebook and get a lot more engagement than you would organically. So you get a lot of bang for your buck when utilizing social media. Some tips and tricks, and then I'm also going to talk about paid social media advertising after this slide. Something that I cannot stress enough is to plan and schedule out your posts ahead of Give for Good. During the weeks leading up to Give for Good, and especially on Give for Good Day, everyone is really busy contacting donors, sending emails, making Facebook posts, making calls. Make that easier on yourself. You can actually schedule posts ahead of time. Facebook has this built into their platform, and so you can schedule them to go ahead of time and pick exactly what's going to be published and what you want to say at each time. And then another tip is to have posts ready to go in drafts. So something that we do at the Community Foundation is we have all of our graphics ready to go. We know that at some point on Give for Good Day, we're going to surpass $1 million in donations. So we have a woohoo, we just hit $1 million. We have a graphic that goes with it, and we don't know what time that's going to happen. So we make all of those posts, we save them in drafts on Facebook, and then as soon as we're ready to go, we click publish. And that makes it really easy on the day of to make sure that you're keeping everything engaging, you're keeping your social media flowing, to have those scheduled and ready to go. And it also makes it easier on additional staff members or volunteers that maybe aren't as familiar with the social media platform. It makes it easy for them to just go in there and hit publish, something that's already approved. If you have multiple social media accounts, for example, the Community Foundation, we utilize Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. There are free services like Hootsuite, and many of the large services have the free version where you can schedule the same post across all of your platforms, or you can vary them slightly if you'd like, and have them all ready to go on one platform. I know for Hootsuite, the free version includes 30 posts, so that usually will get the Community Foundation through most of Give for Good Day when we have everything scheduled and ready to go. Social media on all of the different platforms, each one kind of has its own quirks on what it likes to see and what hits the algorithm, but always use engaging content like photos and videos to make your posts stand out. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You do not have to hire a professional photographer or a production team to make these photos and videos. An iPhone is perfectly fine, and it's very authentic. You can just go out in your facility, snap a photo of what you have going on at your organization, and share it immediately. And those are going to get more engagement than just writing a regular text or including a link. So you want to make sure you're posting engaging content. If you are the type of organization where, especially during COVID, you don't have anybody visiting your facility, and so maybe there's not a ton of content to share, you can create easy and free graphics on programs like Canva. It's an online graphic design system. They have a free version. And so that way you can make interesting designs and graphics. You don't have to be a professional graphic designer to utilize these, and it gives you something to share on your Facebook page. On the resources page for Give for Good, we also have tons of just canned generic graphics for Give for Good, like the logo, Facebook cover photos, Instagram story templates, that you can take those, drop them into Canva or whatever graphic design software that you use and make something that is uniform with the Give for Good brand. And that way it's easily recognizable and adds to that collective impact of the day. A tip when you're posting on social media and really everything is to share the engaging content, make a call to action. So tell the people who are looking at your post what you would like them to do. For example, donate to our organization today, and then always link to your Give for Good profile. I see so much great content out there and it doesn't give you a link of where you can actually go to donate. So make sure that you're always using your link. If you have one of those custom URLs on your website, it's really easy to post so that donors have an easy way to get to your profile during the giving time for the 2-week window. And then another tip is to utilize influencers that you already know. Typically nowadays we think of influencers as people who are paid to make social media posts about your organization, but they do not have to be, a Kardashian or anything like that to be an influencer. So you can go to your board members, your volunteers, your friends. There is someone in the circle of your organization who is just that person who has a really active social media following. They have friends and family that are very engaged and they share really authentic information, and just ask them, hey, you already support our organization as a volunteer. Will you please make a post on Instagram or on Facebook or Twitter supporting us on Give for Good Day, and encourage your followers to like us and follow us as well. So that's an easy way to broaden your horizon. For social advertising, there are multiple ways that you can do paid social advertising, and there are free online tutorials and resources. Facebook for Business is a really great one. They not only have instructions on how to set up your Facebook advertising account, but they have really great just general marketing resources about building brand awareness, building an audience, retaining your followers, and building relationships with them. So I encourage everybody to go out and find the online tutorials that coordinate with the platforms that you're already using. Social is really great because they do a lot of data collection on people who are on the platforms. So you can create lookalike audiences if you don't exactly know who you're trying to target. Facebook and other advertisers can create an audience with the same characteristics of the people who already follow you. And then just, depending on your budget, you grow that number and you're reaching people who are like the people that already follow you. Or you can also build custom audiences if you have a great idea about, we know that the people who support us, live in this zip code, they have these interests, they're around this age. There are a lot of different demographics that you can put into the advertising parameters to target very specific people that you think would be great donors for your organization. Another way to advertise is to just boost your post. There will be a link to boost your post at the bottom of every single Facebook post. Facebook highly encourages you to spend your advertising dollars with them. And that's something that you already have on your page, and you can just add some dollars there to get more engagement and likes and shares on a particular post. Or you can create custom ad campaigns for social advertisers as well, which is where you create a completely separate campaign that goes out onto the social platforms, but it doesn't appear in your feed. And that's where you can be really targeted with those custom audiences of who you're trying to reach. And again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Moving on to digital marketing, very similar to social in the way that it works, just on separate platforms. So something that is very effective for fundraising and in Give for Good in particular, we see a lot, is email marketing. You can use email marketing services such as Constant Contact or MailChimp, or email marketing can just be as simple as sending out marketing emails from your own personal email account. So use your existing contact lists to reach your donors. If you've participated in Give for Good before, all of your donor information is stored on the back end of your profile from 2017 onward. So make sure you export those contacts and send them an email reminding them, hey, thank you so much for giving to Give for Good in the past. Make sure you give again. here are the dates. So you can start now by sending save the date emails and saying April 20th to May 4th, plan to give through Give for Good. And then also throughout that Give for Good open donating window, make that call to action and say, give to us now, give to us today, and then include the link to your Give for Good profile. Make it as easy as you can for donors to reach you on that day. A lot of effective emails I've seen as well, just create a really quick breakdown, 1, 2, 3, here's how to find us on Give for Good. Click the link, add us to your cart, check out in one easy step. So again, you want to make sure it's easy for donors to access you on that day. And again, you can use photos in your email marketing. You can use videos, graphics, anything to make it, attractive and really stand out in those inboxes. For digital advertising, and I'm really excited for Jackie to share her insights on these as well, because she's really the expert here, and we're going to talk to her a little bit later. But you can target a very, very specific audience through digital advertising. They are magic makers when it comes to reaching the people that you want to reach. And if the question that you ask is, who is your audience? Who are your donors? Who are you trying to reach? If the answer is everyone, you need to really think strongly about who you're trying to reach, because those dollars, your advertising dollars, are not being used effectively if you make the scope too broad. So, and it can also be too narrow as well. So you really want to think about, who are your current donors? Who are your board members? What are their interests? What makes them alike? What makes them different? And how can we reach other people that are similar to our donors? Or if you're going after a brand new audience, say that you want to reach a younger demographic, people that you're trying to recruit as volunteers, or that you just want to donate $10 and you want to grow that relationship over time. What do those people look like? And then create a very segmented audience based on that information. With digital advertising, you can also do geofencing, which is always really cool. Geofencing is where they will set a parameter around an address that you pick. So say you have a very physical location for your nonprofit, like the Robinson Film Center or YMCA, and people come and visit your location frequently. You can set any person that has an iPhone or a device that comes into your organization or into that geographical area. And then after they leave, it will send them an ad. So you can say, okay, well, you were in our organization's facility today on Give for Good Day. And then an hour later, they're getting an ad that was targeted to them because they visited you. So it's somebody who's likely to be a supporter or a donor of your organization. You also have addressable targeting or retargeting. The Community Foundation uses this. If you already have the addresses of your donors, you can actually tell the advertising platforms that you want to send ads to the devices that are located at those addresses. So if you already have a pretty big donor list, that's a really great way to reach people and remind them of Give for Good. Again, make a list of the characteristics of the people who you want to reach. Utilize the emails and addresses that you already have. And then you can create the lookalike audiences in social. There are also capabilities in various online advertising platforms to create lookalike audiences. And again, make that call to action. You want to tell the donor exactly what you would like them to do, and then link it to your Give for Good profile to make it easy for them to access you on Give for Good Day. And the great thing about digital advertising, which is where I really geek out about the whole thing, is that you can track the data to see what works. So you can say, okay, this color that we used in this content performed much higher than the other ads. Clearly that's working for us. This copy, the call to action, got more engagement and more clicks than the other ones. And so you can really hone in on what is working for your organization and then just continue to build on that as time goes. So a little bit about Town Square Media. They are offering some special pricing for Give for Good participants this year. But we also had that last year, and a lot of people utilized it with really great success. The Community Foundation uses them year round as well. So with Town Square Media, you are able to buy in to digital and social packages at a lower rate that's special for Give for Good participants. You can do targeted and non-targeted digital ads. They'll also help out with the social advertising. And then they also have radio advertising as well. So if you're not familiar with Town Square, it's digital advertising, but Town Square also is a lot of the radio stations in town. So you get a lot of bang for your buck if you utilize their services. They will run ads between April 20th and May 4th. They handle the creative. If you're not a graphic designer, you don't have one on staff, that is a-okay. They will do it for you. They do some of our graphics sometimes. They're really fantastic at it. And then they have a variety of pricing available. So I'm going to let Jackie talk about that in a little bit. But first, we're about to have a Q&A with Susan from CADA. I just want to remind everybody of these important dates. Now through April 1st, we have virtual trainings every Thursday at 1:30. And again, they're all being recorded. So you can go watch those after the fact. On April 19th, it is the last day to edit your profiles. It's also the last day to let us know if you're having an event and provide insurance for that event. April 20th is when online giving begins, so giving in real time. And then on May 4th, that's the big day. That is Gift for Good, where all of the leaderboards will be live. All of the prizes will be awarded. And it's the big day. So we're really excited for that. So does anybody have any questions real quick that you want to drop in the chat before we move on to the next couple of guest speakers? And I'll give everybody a second to kind of respond while I introduce Susan. So I'm really excited to have Susan here today. She is with the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, also referred to as CADA for short. And Susan represents an organization that is usually very successful during Gift for Good, and they have really great marketing techniques that I also admire year round, not just during Gift for Good. So I'm excited that she can share some insights with us today. So a little bit about CADA and their Gift for Good experience. They have raised just under $200,000 since 2014. They've been with us since year one. And then they've gotten an additional almost $30,000 in Lanyap Fund bonuses throughout the years as well. So this year, Susan, I don't know if you've done all the math on this, but y'all are going to pass that $250,000 mark, hopefully this year through Gift for Good, which is really exciting. Last year, they raised $26,000 from 114 donors. And where I think that they excel, Susan can also share some insights on what she thinks they do really well, but they utilize their year-round marketing channels during Gift for Good. So they do a really great job of swapping all of their materials over to Gift for Good materials during April and May. Their board members are really great ambassadors for the organization. Almost all, I've heard stories from so many of their board members that are just so excited to talk about CADA. So we're going to hear from Susan about how she energizes and empowers them to share their stories. And then also they excel at sharing client success stories. So before we talk to Susan, she asked if I could share some videos, which I think are really great, that they have on their profile page. I'm hoping the sound works and everything. So I'm just going to share a couple of you with you. They're very short, but these are a couple of examples of what they use to share their client success stories through Gift for Good. And these are all on their Gift for Good profile.
As a family member, I've watched the real problem of addiction, and CADA is a wonderful organization that can help so many and has helped so many recover from addiction. And it's not just about the recovery, it's about the families also. It's about the support that CADA can give families and give people after they've recovered. There's a wonderful community of alumni that have been to CADA and found recovery and hope and continue to extend their hope and happiness by being a part of CADA after their recovery. I continue to support CADA, love the organization, and hope you will too. Thanks.
So you can see that's an example of a client's family members that they used to share a success story. We'll watch one more from a client. But again, they're really short, but they tell the story of CADA and their work, and they're very easily shared on social media, digital platforms, and on their Gift for Good profile as well. And you'll also notice that they always provide the link to go donate to their organization at the bottom of the video.
I learned a new word for hope, and I learned it when I said I was hopeless when I came into CADA, and I learned a new word for hope when I got into CADA, and that was one of the counselors said, Chris, hold on, pain ends. I have a life ahead of me, and I can see nothing but hope. And that's what CADA did for me. and I will forever be grateful.
Oh no, so I'm hearing that you can hear the videos, but you can't see them. So thank you, Zoom. This is, doing Zoom as a training is very new for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I encourage everybody to go look at CADA's Give for Good profile. It's giveforgoodinla.org/CADA if you want to watch those videos in full. They have a couple of the short ones, and then they have a longer one as well where you hear from multiple clients. So Susan, if you want to go ahead and unmute, we'll begin our discussion. I'm so sorry. Zoom is not my platform of choice. I'm not great at it. So I'm sorry that I couldn't get those videos up there. But if you want to start off by just telling us a little bit about your past Give for Good strategies, where do you usually focus on your efforts, and what do you find works best for you?
Well, thank you for having me today. And what we usually do is by the time the Community Foundation has that Give for Good site ready for us to make edits, we're already on it, because it takes us, you can spend hours trying to get your profile the way you want it. So we try to make it easy on ourselves, and we use content, PNGs and JPEGs of things we've already spent a lot of money and time on, like our brochure, our full color brochure. We'll go ahead and post those on there because it's got all the content just like we want it. We'll use sometimes video testimonials that we've already done, and we'll post them there. For example, those videos that if people want to go look at those on our profile page, they were done by Clint McCommon at Fairfield Studios. He used that content for our annual meeting that we usually did, this great big celebrity annual dinner in October, but we had to go virtual last year like everyone else. So he was able to take some of the testimonials that we used for that and rework them for this with the Give for Good logo, with additional information that was our messaging for Give for Good. So yes, cell phone videos are wonderful. And you know, the research shows that people don't respond well to overproduced content. But when you have someone like Clint at Fairfield Studios that knows what he's doing, it's actually can be very affordable and much better than anything I personally can do with a phone. So the other thing is, by the time that website is up and running, we have already been looking at mistakes we've made or fundraising trends we're seeing within our own database and how we might want to address Give for Good. And we come up with strategies and a plan. And one of the things, for example, was that annual meeting in October that ended up turning into a little mini Give for Good for us. And what we learned was that even though Give for Good is all about social media, you cannot have a successful campaign without really getting a lot of participation on the social media. We worried about oversaturating our followers with too much fundraising. So we came up with a plan for that this year, where we're not going to be beginning our promotion for Give for Good until people can actually give, when we can provide a link. So what used to be early giving, which is now going to be actual giving, that first day is the first day you're going to see CADA promoting Give for Good. When they are emotional and we've got them, we want them to be able to go give at that moment.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And also, it's so much easier to get somebody to donate when that link is live. You know, a save the date is wonderful, but when they can take immediate action, that always works really well. And I also like what you said about recycling content. You already had this for your annual meeting. You don't have to recreate everything in your arsenal for Give for Good. So I really like that. And y'all, where I really see y'all excelling is, I notice around town that you have year-round advertising contracts. For example, with Town Square and Lamar, you have the radio, the digital, the billboards, but you swap them over to Give for Good during that time frame. So when do y'all make that change? And then how is the messaging different from your usual year-round messaging?
That's a great question, because CADA, let me just give a shout out to our executive director, Bill Rose. He believes in advertising and a well-run campaigns, how effective they can be. CADA might be different from some other nonprofits here because we also are trying to attract clients who are struggling with addiction. So we have different messaging that we're trying to get out at different times of the year. We're always, first and foremost, the message is need help, call CADA or visit this link. And you will notice that even on the very end of our Give for Good videos, we end with that, because we feel like it's most important for us to be reaching out to people who need help. But because of that, and because we have a School of Addiction and Behavioral Health, we buy contracts with Town Square Media, with Lamar Outdoor, and we're going to get so much, and we pay them monthly, and we're going to get so much every month. We then can rotate things in and out as we need them. So if we know that we've got something very important for the School of Addiction, we can rotate that in. So what we do for Give for Good is we start trying to put teasers in early. And this year, as everybody's trying to figure out what's going to move people to give after this horrific year, we started thinking about how addiction is everyone's problem, and CADA is good for the entire community. So that's been the messaging that we've been teasing with for some time now. CADA is good for business. CADA is good for families. CADA is good for our community. Give for Good. So what you will see in early April, you'll see us really pushing those messages of how CADA is good for the community. It's preventing people from going to jail, and it's helping with home ownership, those types of sub messages. And then the day of Give for Good, you will start seeing that Give for Good logo and link, the Give for Good link /CADA, so that people can immediately start giving. The other thing, so I just want to get to social media for a minute before I forget this. Two things that we always do. If we do a live feed on social media with a phone, or if we have something pre-scheduled for a live feed, we always put that link in the description, because you don't want people seeing that and thinking, okay, where do I go to give? And they're stuck in the middle of your video. You need to make sure they always see that link and know where to go to give. And the other thing is, if you have people setting up things for you and sharing things on Facebook, you have to be very careful, because Facebook wants to make its own little donate. You're seeing these every birthday that somebody has. And so even when CADA is posting things on Facebook, if Facebook's algorithm can determine that that is for donations, they will try to make that into a Facebook fundraiser, which has happened with some of our supporters. So to get back to your original question there, we do start moving into some teasers in early April. And this year is the first year that we are not going to promote Give for Good 2 weeks out of early giving. We don't want people tuning out from CADA's Facebook page or from our advertising before they can even click on a link and give.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the Facebook donate button. Facebook is really great at wanting you to funnel money through their platform. And so if you get offered to set up a donate button on Facebook, just know that those funds are going to be channeled through Facebook, not through Give for Good. And so they're not going to count towards your leaderboard or your lanyard fund. So that's a really great tip, and something that you don't want to accidentally fall into. So CADA participates in our large organization category, which is based on budget. But if you are a smaller organization on a tight budget, what's the one channel that you would suggest using to get the most bang for your buck?
I would say social media backed up by email. You cannot, there have been some changes on Facebook in the last year maybe, or even longer, whereas they're really trying to get more control over their own content, trying to create more ad revenue, and you can't be guaranteed that even your followers are going to see your content. So we are constantly telling our board and our followers, even sometimes if you go to Facebook's page, unfollow us and immediately click follow again, it'll bump us up to the top of your newsfeed again. Especially during Give for Good, you're going to want to see everything that we post. But we just encourage our supporters to actually go to our Facebook page. If they're the type that is going to help us, then we send them to our page daily to share things. The email also, we feel like we track, and again, this information is from October and the annual meeting, but we track where we were getting our gifts from, and they were all online donations. And email was tremendously successful for us. So you can put your gift for good link right there in the email, and it'll just send them straight to make that donation. But also you can change your signature line, and you can put the link there, and you can have a picture there. And we feel like that was another way that we got quite a few donations, but nothing. And if then for a nonprofit that doesn't have a big budget, if they have any budget at all, Google ads and digital advertising, I mean, if you could even do the least little bit of geofencing, it helps. But I think there's nothing that really beats Google ads for being able to track the success of what you're doing. You can follow them right through to your website and see, and even Town Square Media can help us this with a little bit, kind of see where they're going after they leave the website. But also even phone calls. Now, we can't do that type of thing because we provide healthcare, and we are bound by HIPAA and Part 2 regulations. But if you're a business or a nonprofit that doesn't have any sensitive information, you can actually track your phone calls, see who's clicking through and calling your organization. So those things don't cost as much money. And then again, I would use those phone feeds to do different things. And if you're going to try to do a fun event on a Friday night, like this year, one thing that we're doing is we weren't able to use our annual speaker that we had booked, Dan Schneider, who I don't know if any of you have seen the Netflix documentary series called The Pharmacist, and he was going to be our speaker this year. So, and we didn't know what to expect with that annual meeting virtually, so we put him off until later, and we had him come up to Fairfield Studios and record a live interview. A local writer, Chris J, interviewed him. And this is an idea that anybody could use for not paying a speaker, but just one of their volunteers or one of their former clients who has a testimony that they could share. You can do this on your phone, or you could have it professionally done. But when you get ready to do this as a live feed, we've discovered that Facebook live feeds are better than even doing things on Zoom, because if you don't work in an office, you probably haven't used Zoom very much unless you're young, and a lot of our supporters are not that young. So we feel like live feeds on Facebook are really good, but again, you have to pre-promote them if you can. You have to drive traffic to them. It is harder for people to just find this stuff organically on Facebook now.
Yeah, those are all really really great points. And I have one more question before we kind of head over to Jackie, and then we're going to open it up for all Q&A for me, Susan, and Jackie, whatever anybody wants to talk about. But y'all do a really great job, as I said earlier, as empowering your board, to empower your board members to share your stories. And they are very enthusiastic about CADA. Do y'all have any tips or tricks or strategies for getting them to be your ambassadors?
Yeah, our board rocks, don't they? I mean, Jim Madison is our president, and Sarah Price is our VP of Marketing and Development, and they both lead by example, not only with their donations, but with telling their stories and encouraging other people to give. And one thing that we do with our board is, in the planning stages, we explain to them what we think we should do, and we ask them for their input. But if you haven't, I think we have a long way to go in educating our community at large about what Give for Good really is. And I have thought about this. I've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years, and I just racked my brain on how to train the public on this. So we definitely train our board. We explain to them what our goals are, such as this year. I don't know if you were paying attention on our past fundraising, but 114 gifts at that level. Our average gift is very high. And most of our gifts come from long-term CADA supporters, not new people. So this year we have a goal for new first-time gifts. And we explain those things to our board and how they can help us do that. And then the other thing we do, and this is very important, we send our board information to share, and so they can copy and paste it and have the link right there. Because if they can do it in 2 or 3 seconds, they're more likely to do it than if they've got to go hunt down the information to do. We encourage them to add something that is personal about why they support CADA wherever they are sharing that. And then we also encourage them, and this is a biggie, to email their friends and to message their friends individually, not as a group, and ask them to support CADA. And when I had back when we had personal campaigns, the first year that we started those, I did one for Holy Angels, and I've never done this for anything since or before that, but I sent my ask out to my entire Google email list. And I know that people probably, I got some of them back, well, I can't support you because I'm on this board or whatever, but I just did it because it was such an important thing for me. And I did it through private message on Facebook too. And one of my dear friends gave a $500 gift to me secretly because she didn't want any of her other fundraising friends to find out. And she said, I merely did it because you were the only one that emailed me and asked. And so I got 3 $500 gifts on that $5,000 goal that I never would have gotten if I hadn't done that. So don't worry about emailing your friends or, don't worry about the ask. If you work for a nonprofit, they ought to expect you to come calling this time of year. So.
That's a really great point. And I appreciate you saying that because I think we all sometimes get nervous about the ask. But that's a really great point that it has a good payoff in the end. So again, if anybody has any questions, please drop them in the chat. I want to hear from Jackie really quick before we open it up to Q&A. So Jackie is our rep at Town Square for the Community Foundation, and she does a fantastic job of creating these advertising campaigns for us. And then every time she delivers the results to me about here's how it worked, I'm constantly impressed with what she came up with and what she was able to do. And they have some special rates and packaging for Give for Good participants that I am not great at explaining how they work. So I'm going to let Jackie explain those to you.
Hey, thank y'all so much for letting me hop in and do this. And when she told me I was going to be in there with Susan, I was like, yay, our kiddos, we have a set of kiddos that grew up together. So it's nice to have that connection. And I'm just going to share my screen. I know everybody's got lots of stuff on their plate. So and I don't do Zoom very often either. So bear with me. Can everybody see me or see my screen? Okay. I'll go through it quickly. I made the slides where everybody could see them. So there's more slides than I would normally do, but I just thought this was, okay, what we've learned. We learned how to adapt. The internet is extremely powerful, and that this to me is really what I've learned more than anything, is that people really do want to help, and that people of many ages are their first time donors. There's people doing things out there that didn't do it before. And I think people want to connect. And once they've connected to people, it feels good. And even though it may be small, I think there are a lot of people that want to do something, even though it may not be as much as they'd like to do. And the word pivot is just about overused, almost there, but it's not quite overly used yet. But I think we learned very quickly how to adapt to what we needed to do. I don't want to say I was skeptical, but I think we were all like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with Give for Good this year? And when we can break those records in 2020, I just feel like we've got a huge opportunity in 2021 to help anyone that's willing to jump in and take the time to do it. And make the effort. So I just do want to give a quick shout out to some of our partners from last year, Campty Field of Dreams, the Red Cross, Loving Solutions, 2 versions of St. Vincent de Paul, and Holy Angels, and of course the Community Foundation itself for being our partner. I think we've been the radio partner since it started, and then started doing the digital, I guess probably about 3 years ago when we started adding in a big share of digital. Okay, I'm going to run through these fairly quickly, but I want y'all to jot down my information, take a screenshot of it, whatever it is, send me a message, and I'm willing to have this meeting with you personally. We can spend 15, 20 minutes and talk through what you have and what you need, because every single person's needs and wants are different when it comes to this formula. Not everyone can have what Susan has in her back pocket with all the people that can help them do it and all of that creative ready to go. Some of you have a logo and that's all you've got, and that's fine. We can help tweak it and do what we need to do. But here's the key. Last year, we have to try to stay to a deadline. Last year, I kind of got myself in a pickle because I was taking things at the very last minute and I just wanted to help. I wanted to be able to be there, and it was hard. We really had a hard time doing some things as quickly as we had to do them. But so I've put some firm deadlines in here to help. Okay, so run of network. This is a digital play. This is under that programmatic kind of advertising. If I say a word you don't understand, jot it down, raise your hand, whatever, and I'm going to stay on afterwards as well to answer any questions. And this would be something that we would run. Run of network allows us to cast a large net, but the thing is that net is in a specific zip code. So we have 10 zip codes that you're going to choose. You may choose that geographically, the 10 zip codes closest to your organization. You may choose that based on the people that you have on your mailing list. Whatever that is, you may choose that as, okay, we need more donations from the people that live here. So let's add them to the zip code list. So we're able to put those ads in those 10 zip codes, and it's a minimum. You can do more than that if you already have them established. But that will help you to pinpoint who you're going to send those ads to. To me, the quick benefits are that you know where they're being sent. You're going to have great awareness for your brand and inviting them to click to a click now button like Susan was talking about. That is so incredibly important. And I had 2 organizations last year that did not update their profiles. So that was a huge deficit. It was hard to overcome that if that wasn't done in time. So just from a practicality standpoint, update that as quickly as you can. And then your ads will be placed on mobile devices and desktops. So you're hitting a cross section of donors. So if someone gets that ad on their phone or on their tablet or wherever they're getting their information, have the ability to click into that and make that donation. Now, last year we did run these, and I'm sorry, Emily, I didn't tell you, I kind of changed my little bit of philosophy, just a smidge. We were going to start them on the 20th, the day that everything goes live. But I think starting them just a few days earlier is, and of course, at that point, the ad would say, click here for more information. But there are so many of you guys asking for people to donate that I think by trying to tickle them, if you will, just a few days early will put it on the top of their list. It'll put them to the top of the option, so to speak. So this is a run of network campaign. There would be, for $200, there would be 34,780 targeted digital ads over that time frame. And I'll send everything via DocuSign. So it's all touchless. We don't have to, meet in person or anything like that. And we will do the creative. I'm going to show you some examples here in just a bit of what we did last year. All we really need is your logo. I did have one send me a flyer last year. And so like Susan said, we can reuse whatever you've got established, but really we take that design that we do with Emily and we tweak it and click it into your page. At the end of the campaign, we will have a detailed report, which Emily and I are both kind of number nerds. And so we really have a good time when we go through that data and are able to look through it. So if you have questions, just let me know and I'll be happy to answer. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. This is addressable geofencing. Now, Emily, you and I talked about this, but we didn't actually, I hadn't decided if I was going to put it in here or not. And I had a training a couple weeks ago, and this has become such a popular thing for people to do. Now, I will warn you, this one takes a little more time to execute, but it is so well worth it. If you already have an existing mailing list, or if you already do a mailer or anything like that, this is where we literally take the geofencing concept that we talked about, that you guys talked about earlier, and we verify the plat lines, if you will, of each and every address. And these ads are served to those actual addresses, to the devices inside that home. So right now, this was a pivot we made last year, and Emily can attest to this, that we had to switch at the very last minute because we were going to do all social, but we needed to talk to people where they were, and this was it. And we had great results with this for the foundation itself. So this is something that it is a higher buy-in, but I really wanted to include it because it is really working. And if you can do the $500 to do this, it's worth it. So I wanted to put it out there as an option. The ads would run for a full month. I can't make this one a 2-week campaign. I have to have a full month to do this one. But you have 41,000, almost 42,000 targeted ads to those exact addresses that you give me. Now, we're supposed to have 1,500 addresses. Lots of you don't have 1,500 addresses, but we can curate that. Emily spoke to the lookalike audience. That's what we can do with, if you have 400 addresses, whatever it is, we can curate that list to mimic the people that are already part of your list. So we can do that. We used to not be able to, but they've added that to our bag of tricks, so to speak. So that's something that is extremely, extremely useful when it comes to touching people that are already close to your organization. So it's a great way to either support or replace your direct mail, and nothing against direct mail, but I can track this. I can tell you, and that's what we looked at. We were like, okay, now that we've done this for a year, let's look at the zip codes and the areas that we had the most engagement with, and let's add more of those to the campaign instead of using the ones where we didn't have as much engagement. So my phrase is I always say, let's let the data drive us. It drives us to what we do. And it's great information post-campaign to have to know, I would have thought that did better than it did. And it just, sometimes it'll really surprise you. Once again, we'll handle the creative. And then you also receive a detailed reporting all the way down to the cities to see where your message was accepted the best. Because we did served a lot of places outside of Shreveport. And I'll take the opportunity to let y'all know we can do this anywhere in the United States. I used to do a couple of things for Chimp Haven years ago with Ashley, and her donors come from the East Coast and the West Coast. So we had some people on those coasts that we targeted, and it worked. It was great. So we can serve this anywhere in our area. Okay. Social media. Social media is a tricky little monster, and I think we've already kind of spoken to that a little bit. Last year, we had two of, and I'm going to show y'all some creative examples here in a minute, but the way that we do this differently than you can do it is that we are able to target them in a different way, if you will, because we're not buying as an individual entity. We're kind of buying around it, if you will, and able to place those ads with all of the demographic interest, the behavior interest, and all of that for you. The $250, normally it's a $500 buy-in for a Facebook awareness campaign, but we're able to take $250, and that's what I ended up doing last year. And I take that creative and I serve it to two different sets of people, two different zip codes. In fact, one was Ruston and one was Shreveport. So it was totally different last year, but I kind of using the power of the group, able to do that together. Important that it runs on both Facebook and that it runs on mobile as well as desktop. And it also does serve to Instagram. It's a lot smaller, but it does serve to Instagram. This would be April 15th to May 4th. Once again, just a little bit earlier because it gives us a chance to ramp it up and really let those algorithms, as I say, cook a little bit, and then it knows where to hit those. Deadline April 1st. Something that I don't know if many of you have dealt with, I think Susan touched on it, was that Facebook can be very, very particular about not only the clicking in where you're making your donation, but the content of the ad. The content of that ad cannot have, I can't put an ad with a bunch of font as my ad. I have to use, they're very weird about words in the ad, and it has to be, they prefer wordless ads. So there's some tweaking that we have to do, and we have to be given admin access to the Facebook page to do it for you, which is not a big deal. But when we're asking for a donation, there was an extra layer of verification that we learned last year. It just delayed us another day or two trying to get everything live. So I learned my lesson very quickly last year that I got to give myself just a little bit more time on that one. Okay, so that's social media. Okay, Facebook awareness. These were the two that we did last year, and it was Campty Field of Dreams as well as St. Vincent de Paul. And this was a screenshot of her actual post from last year. So you see how we took the Give for Good sprinkles and created the ad with it, with that picture behind it, and then asked them to, to click into it to donate. And then Campty, we did the same thing. So those are a couple of ad examples. I am going to show you some things that we can do with our local radio stations. We have 6 radio stations for those of you not familiar with us. Keel, KDKI, Kiss Country, K94.5, and the rock station. We've got 98.9 The Highway and KWKH. This is something that is proprietary to us at Town Square Media. We are able to go in and pull, I just had this pulled last night. We are able to pull, it's kind of we have first party data that we can pull for the users of our websites and our apps. So I'm able to say, okay, I want you to go in and tell me who all in our user base is using and looking for, and I ask them to search for these parameters: charitable donors, people doing research on charitable organizations, and nonprofit volunteers. So I have them pull this for me, and this is just in the last 30 days. And I'm running through this really fast, so I apologize, but I just don't want to run out of time. And then it shows us through an indexing model on the bottom, which stations make the most sense. So it's no surprise that Keel is where a lot of the donors are. And the way to read that chart is, let's say charitable donors, charitable organization researchers on the Highway 98.9 are almost 2.5 times more likely to be in that field of people than the average consumer in Shreveport. So this shows that our stations, all of them, are over at least 100% more likely to be in that, have that higher propensity to be a part of the people that we're trying to touch. Okay, and that will lead me into what I was going to say next. And this also leans to influencers. These stations are your influencers. They may not be people, but they are influencers in the market in and of themselves. These are mobile toppers, and the mobile toppers are attached to whichever station it is that we want to run on. And I put 150 and 250 in here for 2 different reasons. The 2-week run, it's kind of like a scale. We have to have enough scale to make it where it works. And so for 2 weeks, the smaller the budget, the more narrow the focus. So if we're going to run a shorter time frame, then we need to, a smaller budget, we need to run a shorter time frame. A larger little bit of budget, we need to run we can run the full 4 weeks. So just depending. And this is totally a la carte depending on the person. And we can go as far down as that $40 or $50 range, but we just need to make sure that we also manage our expectations that we're going to touch a lot less people with that than we would touch with the larger budget. So this was just 2 examples. So I can do a la carte for, whoever it is and whatever the budgets are. And once again, we take we drop your logo into it and do all that and link it right into your donor page. And that deadline is April 9th, because these are on our products. We have a little bit more time to make those particular products happen. Here's an example for you of kind of how this works on a mobile topper. Here's your initial load view. So let's say I'm going to 710 Keel. Here's what it looks like. And here's this is actually screenshots from 3 different people from last year. So this is the Red Cross where and it clicks right in, and then the full screen. And then when someone is scrolling down the page on the app, this stays up here the whole time. So you have a presence on there the entire time someone is on that. During that one session, you're on there in some way, shape, or form the entire time. And I wanted to show you all the ad sizes that we used last year for the Red Cross. We take that confetti, sprinkle, whatever we want, that Emily and I had a debate over. These are sprinkles, they're not confetti. And we take it and we drop your logo in it, and then change, very, very important to have a donate now button, a call to action, or as I call them, a click to action within the ad. So we don't let them forget to go ahead and do that then. And I will tell you that I jotted it down that last year, the Red Cross, as an example, they had 26 individual donors and a total of $6,000 in for their campaign. And when the ads started on the 19th or whatever that 2-week window was, she said that she could immediately see on the backside people going there and tracking that donation process. So I think there were some really good success stories last year, and I'd love to be able to, to help people with whatever it is. There's so many more options, but I didn't want to overwhelm everybody. So I hope that's good enough.
Yeah, that was great, Jackie. Thank you so much. Again, I'm going to post all of this, Jackie's presentation and all of her rate sheets and everything to the resources page so that you can get in touch with her. Again, everything is so customizable, and she will work with you on your the creative, the information, who you're trying to target. There's some really great resources there. So now we're going to open it up to Q&A. If you want to take it off mute, you can ask a question. I and Susan and Jackie are going to stick around if y'all have any questions for us.
One thing I want to add, it wasn't my idea. It was my friend Judy Williams, but she had told us a couple of years ago that she had got given to, I believe it was the Deaf Action Center, and she immediately got a thank you right after she made her donation by email, and it was a video in sign language thanking her for her donation. And the fact that she still remembered that, a good year after it happened, it told me what an impact it was. And so since then, we have done that very thing. We've recorded thank you videos that as soon as someone gives, they get that video thank you. And it's not hard to do, to manage. And once you do that to somebody, you usually have a donor for life. So
that's awesome. That's a great idea, Susan.
Judy's
yeah, yeah, I've had somebody call me as well after making a donation, and that was really made an impression on me, because I just don't anticipate phone calls for that sort of thing. So I was like, wow, they're really going at it. Julie, I know you had a question as well. I think I saw you raise your hand.
Yes. So first of all, thank you for this, because it's so helpful. So I'm actually Salvation Army, but we do Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club when it comes to Give for Good. This is my first year with Give for Good. What are main things that I need to make sure we hit for this? I know doing the profile and making sure that's put together, but what other main things, like 1, 2, 3 are I can't do without type thing?
Yeah, I think If I had to choose 3 things that like are super necessary for your Gift for Good campaign, number 1 is on your profile. Make sure you add photos and videos to that media section. It really just prevents it from, when you go to the profile, being a wall of text. So it'll have your mission statement at the top, and then it looks kind of like Instagram where it tiles the media. It'll have some pictures and videos there. And then down below it, you can include all the other information that you want. So I think that's a really big part of having kind of an attractive and engaging profile. My second tip would be to utilize the resources that you already have. You do not have to reinvent the wheel for Give for Good. So I know Salvation Army, y'all have an email newsletter. You have tons of graphics that are already at your disposal. You do not have to recreate everything for Give for Good. Just use what you already have. And here's an example of what we do at the foundation. We have a monthly e-newsletter that goes out the first Monday of every month. And then on that May e-newsletter, all I do is I add the little Give for Good sprinkles to the top, and I call it the Give for Good special edition. And it's all about Give for Good. So it's something that they're already anticipating will hit their inbox, but it's Give for Good related. So we're using those contacts we already have. And then of course we send special Give for Good emails as well. And then the third one would be to utilize social media. I know so many, Salvation Army, I think, is in our large category, but we have so many small and medium organization participants, and social media is, you can do the paid advertising, or it's completely free, and it's a great way to reach people and encourage your donors and your board members and your volunteers to share your content. So it's an easy way to get out there.
Well,
I might add one thing. Are y'all going to do an event of any type around it?
we're going to try. We kind of have a couple things in the works, but our lieutenants are out this week. So we're going to be meeting next week to really start pounding the pavement for Gift for Good. But we are going to be trying. I don't know if we're hooking up with restaurants or specific businesses or anything like that. Do you have any advice for that?
There's a deadline coming up for insurance. So you have to have an insurance certificate posted to your account, just like you uploaded the agreement and everything. What's the deadline on that, Emily?
April 19th. Thank
Okay.
you, Susan. Yeah.
And as for events, the Salvation Army has a huge volunteer force. My VP of Marketing and Development is Sarah Price, and she's
I love Sarah.
I know she is.
I just got on the board meeting with her.
So I gave for her to the Salvation Army this year. So anyway, what we learned about events was the first year I was at CADA, I think I've done 3 or 4 of these for CADA. We had a nice little tea party, a Mad Hatter tea party at Fairfield Place. And I mean, we just had 0 attendance. And I mean, these mistakes, they're fine if you learn from them. And what we ended up with, of course, we didn't do any event last year because of the pandemic, but the year before, we just hosted something at our Fairfield office, and we set up our TV with our drunk Mario Kart in there, where people could wear the drunk goggles and the weed goggles and play Mario Kart against each other. And it was just a come and go thing with a light food. I think this year we're probably gonna try to do it with a food truck and have it outside, but it just brings home our mission. We are able to get those, while people are there, we can record a quick live video with them saying why they support, and we do a live feed on Facebook with them. But all I'm saying is you may have much more success with an off-site event, but we just decided, at least this way, doing it at CADA, we could be there in the office where we needed to be, working all day on Gift for Good, calling people and emailing them and doing what we needed to do. And we just don't do any off-site events the day of Gift for Good anymore. A lot of competition.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And something that I've talked about in trainings, in previous years, is you have to kind of know what you intend to raise and what a realistic goal for you is, and then plan your marketing budget accordingly. Because what you don't want to do is throw a $5,000 event and then raise $1,000 on Give for Good.
Right.
And I've worked with organizations before that have tried to plan these really big galas around Give for Good. And Give for Good is just about engaging the community, energizing your supporters. It's not necessarily about these big, events. So I like what Susan is saying, like, it's so much easier and more cost effective to show off your facilities and be able to engage with clients and donors and board members and bring everybody together versus than these, giant events. So, and I think most of the organizations that have really successful events, and we've got special COVID guidelines for this year, but they're all pretty chill, like come and go type of things like that.
I think the ideal give for good is you spend next to nothing on it. And I mean, because the rates that Jackie is quoting are very reasonable. And I think that's the whole plan. It was a social media, it was a 24-hour online giving period, and you can do it without spending very much money. The only reason we use radio and outdoor and all that is because we already have that budgeted all year long. It's already going to be paid for, and we're swapping in, and it's still name recognition even. So I would say best case scenario is to try not to spend any more money than you have to on this.
And I wanted to just add one thing. I meant to say it when I was talking and I didn't look down at my notes, is that if you have not activated your Google Analytics on the backside of your websites, and speaking of last year, in talking with Donna Isaacs over at the Campty Field of Dreams, we ended up putting together a website for her because that's something that Town Square does, because we were able to do a nonprofit website for her, which is extremely inexpensive, and because she didn't have a great place to send anybody. So you have to create that landing for someone. So there are some things to do that just makes sense as a fundamental way of following that consumer journey, that we kind of coin it like that now. And that we want to see, if I do any Facebook, I want to be able to know where did they go? And that's all there. Now, granted, it's a navigation. You have to figure it all out. And in our reporting for anybody that does that, we're able to provide that to them. But if you activate your Google Analytics, you're going to be able to see where those donations came from and follow. Did they come, once they came from Facebook, did they bounce off the page? Did they go to 3 pages? Oh, okay, they went all the way here to volunteer, but then they bounced off. So that means, they didn't find what they were looking for. We didn't send them to the right page. We didn't land them where we needed to send them. So that's something to activate all year long and take the time to try to learn it and look at it. Because it is important, and it's a great way to follow the data. Let the data drive where you're going to invest your dollars.
And if you're doing your own web page in Squarespace or something like that, you can do these little 10-second phone videos and have click-through ads with them where they come to different landing pages. So if you have different messaging for different people, they can click through and land different places on your website. And there are some online tutorials that are just easy to follow. And we've learned a ton of information from Town Square, from our relationship with them.
And one thing that Susan said as well is that don't just send them to your homepage. If it's something about volunteering, make sure. People are lazy. Save them the clicks, get them where they need to go, because they want it just served to them on a platter. And so if it's something, don't send them just to your homepage. Save them that okay, that message is for someone to sign up to do this event. I need to link them to that event on that page. And that's not so much applicable to Give for Good per se, but if you have an About Us, don't have an About Us tab and send them to your homepage. Click on that About Us tab, copy that URL, and that's where you want to send them, because they're going to get there and go, well, this doesn't tell me anything about us, and they're going to bounce off and you've lost them. So just, best practices, things like that. And y'all holler at me if you have questions on that.
Yeah, great insight. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I do want to say one other thing if nobody has a question. This is, it sounds overwhelming, but it's so affordable. And as a matter of fact, we stopped doing television 2 years ago. We just felt like it made sense for us. And television was bundling digital services into their contracts, where we wanted more control over our digital advertising than we were able to get, or even get in any analytics back that made sense to us. And we get that through the geofencing and even some of the sneaky ad placement that Town Square does for us, because we're regulated more heavily with Google and Facebook because we're an addiction treatment facility. There's a vetting service that they want us to go through that will cost us $15,000 a year. So I'm just saying that even though this type of digital advertising can sound hard to do, it's really not after you just dig into it a little bit, and it is so worth the money. Print, you know, I'm a big fan of 318 Forum. I'm a big local person. I want to utilize everything we can, but the pandemic kind of changed all that too, you know, and where people have access to local and regional print materials. So if the biggest bang for the buck, I can't say this enough, it's through Google Ads and geofencing backed up. If you can back it up with radio and outdoor, it's just a real sweet spot for us. We love it.
Any other questions? Well, thank y'all so much for joining us today. Again, we're going to stay on if anybody has any one-on-one questions, and join us next week when we talk about peer-to-peer fundraising, and we're actually going to have our Neon One rep on here. So I'm excited for everybody to meet her because I interface with her all the time and y'all never see anybody from Neon One. So.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Thank you, Jackie. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll hang on just a second in case there's anybody.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to ever email me or call me, feel free to. It's Susan.Reeks, REEKS @CADA, NWLA.org. You can just go to our website to where it has our team and you can click through there. But if you just have any questions after you try to sort through all of this, I'd be happy to answer anything for you. We've made tons of mistakes that we've learned from.
Susan, you are a wealth of information.
What not to do. So don't have a big fancy tea party on the day of Do for Good. That's a great one. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.